Death Battle is a really special show to me. Without it, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't be making the content I enjoy making, and I wouldn't have met plenty of great friends in the Versus community. And so, for the 10th anniversary of the show, I'm going to review the most iconic episode, Goku vs Superman. I'm not going to format this like my usual reviews where I go over the negatives and the positives, I'm just going to kind of ramble about it for a little bit. This episode really is something special. I cannot think of a single Versus episode to have a wider impact on the Versus community than this. You have your Ben 10s versus your Green Lanterns, your Kirbys versus your Boos, your Garas versus your Toffs, but none of them can match this episode in terms of impact and especially not in quality. They really pulled out all the stops for this one to try and make it live up to the hype, and it leads to the episode that feels the most cinematic out of the entire show. The stats in the post-analysis are downplay for both, that's common knowledge by this point, but the analysis is so thoroughly explained and so entertainingly written that it's impossible for me to not respect the dedication that the entire team, Ben especially, had for it. The analysis is never what I like to focus the majority of my reviews on though. Let's take a look at the animation. It starts with a Team 4-star edit, which, I'll be honest, as a setup, it does not work for me. Like, it's funny, but I think it's a really lame way to set up the fight. Goku wanting to fight him just for the sake of wanting a challenge is more than enough. You don't need this "he's gonna destroy the planet" bullshit as a reason for Goku to kill, because even then there have been people who've actively tried to destroy the Earth that he just let go. And up until this point, the only thing he's seen Superman do is save a bunch of innocent lives. It just doesn't make sense. It's still enjoyable, but you can cut everything after Roshi's line and nothing of value is lost. Then we get to the actual fight. The second 3D fight of the entire show, and as much as I still like Link vs Cloud, it was pretty janky. The animator would have had to have improved by leaps and bounds to make this live up to expectations. And they absolutely did. This fight scene is absolutely incredible and still holds up to this day. Yeah, it looks pretty bad in stills, but this fight has just such high amounts of energy. There's never a dull moment thanks to both constantly throwing out different abilities. The gradual build-up in power keeps you on your toes the entire time, and despite being almost 10 minutes long, it never really drags. Both fighters use absolutely everything in their arsenals, from obvious iconic moves like the Kamehameha and the Heat Vision, to more obscure ones like Superman's pressure points and even Goku's power pole. They even have Goku use the Dragon Throw. Even having Goku drag Superman across the ground and throw him is a reference to something. That's how dedicated they were to including absolutely everything. And of course, it ends with them clashing fists with their most powerful attacks, the Dragon Fist versus the Infinite Mass Punch. The action helps the fight a lot, but the banter between the two manages to add a lot of levity to the fight and actually show off the fighters' personalities instead of it just being two bricks flying at each other. Superman remains really stoic all throughout, while Goku starts really cheerful and gets more and more serious as the fight progresses and he goes through more transformations. It makes for a really fun dynamic and leads to a bunch of great interactions, made even better thanks to the great voice cast. Masako X does great as Goku, and Michael Agruso, whose name I've definitely just mispronounced, does really well as Superman, really selling his annoyance with most of his lines, even if his mic quality isn't that great. And the entire episode culminates in one of the best deaths in Death Battle history. The swelling of the music as both fighters throw out their final attacks, destroying the entire planet just as a byproduct of their fight. Both fighters were pushed to their limits over the course of this fight, and despite both gaining one last boost towards the end, they're both brought right back down. Superman survives, but he's almost completely drained as a result of the fight, and even gets knocked out for a bit. It's such a phenomenal fight that feels like a love letter to both series. It's an easy 10 out of 10 episode. There have been a few episodes I've preferred since then, but nothing else can even come close to the sheer scale of this episode. This is Death Battle's magnum opus, and has left more of an impact on the Versus community than anything else ever could. The only way they could match it is just by doing Goku vs Superman again. But even if they did, how could they hope to match the original? How could they make a sequel better than the first? Well, they didn't. Okay, I may as well talk about Goku vs Superman 2 while I'm at it. On its own, this is a damn great episode. I really like the documentary format for the pre-analysis, the conclusion feels really climactic, and the animation is just great. It's visually one of the nicest looking episodes, the action's really well done, especially during that great canyon fight. Alive is a fantastic track, and that ending is just phenomenal. Superman walking through the Kamehameha is one of the coolest looking shots in Death Battle history. The swelling music and gorgeous animation really make this scene stand out. This might be a mostly great episode, but as a continuation to the first, that's where I feel it kinda starts falling apart for me. This doesn't feel like a sequel to the biggest fight in the show's history, and it doesn't feel like the big 50th episode either. This just feels like a mid-season episode with nothing special about it. This doesn't feel like a love letter to both series like the original did, and it only feels like it exists to hammer in the point of the first. The end scene with King Kai only emphasises that. Superman's victory is really poorly argued. I don't think I need to explain why Infinite Superman is kinda dumb. And it feels like they jumped the gun on this way too soon. They knew Goku would get stronger, but did the episode anyway. It doesn't feel like they were pushed to their limits like in the first. Superman literally no-sells Goku's strongest attack and doesn't even use his own ultimate attack to get the win. It's a really disappointing conclusion, to the point where Ben himself considers this his least favourite episode. Or at least he did back in the Road to 100 blogs. That might have changed since then. That being said, I still really like this episode. On its own merits, it's still really great. It just doesn't feel like the climactic conclusion we all wanted. For me, it's a 7 out of 10, but it's way closer to an 8 than a 6. On the Season 2 ranking, it was basically the cutoff where everything above it was an 8 out of 10 or higher. So yeah, to wrap up this pretty rushed last minute video, I really like the Goku vs Superman episodes. The second is still a really fun episode that I enjoy a lot, and the first endures as one of my favourite episodes to this day. But one question still remains. Will the reanimated collab be any good? I have no idea, since this video is getting released on the same day as it, if plans fall through. If it's something you guys would want to see, then I'm down to review that as well. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video.